Hare Krishna. Vagyantimirandasya Jnanajana Chaksharunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravacharani Nirvisesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Devi Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna. Tomorrow I will take a session on karma. No, on the sound or karma. So morning we'll have it 7:30 or 8. I'll post in the group. So we'll continue. So this one point I wanted to share with all of you. So like there are people who practice Krishna conscious sometime, but they are practicing very seriously, chanting more rounds and all, but they leave Krishna consciousness. And we have seen also some people like that. They were very serious and they left. Now, the seriousness of practice is not manifested by external things. This is a first understanding we should have. We should not judge the seriousness of a practice by some external. And sometimes chanting extra rounds also is an external thing. The can be one of the external criteria only. Because a man lives Krishna consciousness only because of wrong motivations and wrong practices. And now this is very important because we are practicing something, and when it was like we are expecting something, and for some reason it did not happen. And because these expectations are associated with certain material things, and that will force a person to do extra efforts, not the motivation for Krishna. The motivation for chanting extra rounds is to achieve material things. And I do not want like not that everybody who's repeating 16 notes more 32 or 48 they're having material focus. No, sometimes this is also possible, and a person has a strong desire and he did not understand the most essential foundation of philosophy, that I am repeating this chanting not because I want something. This is the most common misconception that happens with the world. And Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita 5.50 that all the people in this world they are in they are committing a mistake. The meaning of this mistake is that their initial knowledge is covered with ignorance. Ignorance means a misunderstanding that the real nature they have. Ignorance does not mean lack of knowledge. Ignorance means the accept one thing for another. And ignorance that covers our knowledge is that people think have certain understanding of God. So many people, actually many religious people, spiritual people, they believe in God, but they feel that God is existing for my pleasure. This is the greatest mistake they do. That is that there is the difference. God exists not for our pleasure. This is the first thing we should understand. He himself and we are for him. And that is the basic foundation of philosophy of bhakti. Bhakti is that I am servant and such, and that is my nature. And I cannot do anything with this, unfortunately, no matter how much I would like to change things. But God does not exist for me, I exist for him. This is the understanding we need to have. Bhakti means service. So if I understand this, then I won't go anywhere because there is no way to go. Where we are going from ourselves. But if person does not understand, he thinks God is for my pleasure. This is what happens with all the people around. They are so devoted, they are doing so many activities, so many rituals, but basically they feel God is for my pleasure. So in order to somehow get something for him, and at some point I don't get, then what happens? The person leaves. And there is a person does not really understand. Bhakti is service. Bhakti means service. That's all. This is the first understanding we should. And because our nature is service, there is no getting away from service. But people want God to do service for them. Like one simple story you all heard. There is one old lady, and actually, what happens now? If a person serves God, then he will receive God himself. But we do not want God. We want something for him, something from him. And when we, for some reason or other, does not give us something what we are expecting, then we get offended. And like that is the reason people they are not practicing Krishna consciousness properly. Due to incorrect practices, they have the feeling that it is not working because of incorrect. Now, this old widow lady, she had a daughter-in-law who was very harsh, and she went for getting some firewood from the forest, and it was very hot. She somehow lifted and walked, and after walking, she could not walk; it was so heavy. And then she just sat under a tree and in the middle of some jungle. And she knows if I become late, my daughter-in-law will scold. And now she's not able to lift it and put on her head. And then she thought, who will help me now? And she started very sincerely calling Krishna. And Krishna appears. Yes, what do you want? He says, can you please put this bundle back on my head? And Krishna thought, for this you called me? And this is actually people are crying for Krishna. When people call sincerely for Krishna, Krishna comes and they are asking, put the burden on back on my head. Krishna is feeling, my God. And he is very much disappointed with our desires. And that is what is happening. So people, uh, they are practicing Krishna consciousness. First is wrong expectations, wrong motivations, wrong practices, then offenses. So these are the things that will make a person away, even though they are getting something very good. So they are not able to get the full benefit. Because initially when person comes, he is very sincere. He immediately get taste also. But the taste will go away. He loses taste because of uh, this offenses and all these wrong motivations, wrong practices. And anyways, so that's why we have to be very careful with offenses and all. There's some nice purpose points also we'll take on this. So, we are doing bhakti, the point is same. Krishna is not for us, we are for him. That is the formula of bhakti. So, Bhagavan ek asedam agre atmanam vibhu आत्मेच्छयानुगत आत्मा नानामत्य upalakshana. The personality of Godhead, the master of all living entities, existed prior to the creation as one without a second. It is by his will only that creation is made possible, and again everything merges in him. His supreme self is symptomized by different names. Prabhupada's writing. The great sage has here begins to explain the purport of four original verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Although the followers of Mayavada impersonal school have no access to Srimad Bhagavatam, they sometimes screw up an imaginary explanation of original four verses. But we must accept the actual explanation given herein by Maitreya Muni because he, along with Uddhava, personally heard it directly from the Lord. The first line of the original four verses runs, Aham eva sameva gre. The word Aham is misrepresented by the Mayavadi school into meaning which no one but the interpreters can understand. Here Aham is explained as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not the individual entities. Before the creation, there was only the personality of Godhead. There was no Purusha incarnation. Certainly, no living entity, nor was there the material energy by which the manifested creation is affected. The Purusha incarnations and all the different energy of Supreme Lord were merged in him only. And this is a very important understanding, because everything that is an emanation from the personality of Godhead, he always exists alone without a second. He can so exist because he's all perfect and omnipotent. Except for him, all beings, including his plenary expansions, the Vishnu Tattvas, are his part and parcels. So only Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. Even all Vishnu Tattvas are his expansions. So in other words, both the Vishnu plenary expansions and the living entities, beginning from Brahma and his part and parcels, before the creation, there is no Kshirodakshaya, Garbhodakshaya, Karana, nor Brahma or Shankara. Although the spiritual existence was there with the Lord, the material existence was dormant in him. Now, when Brahmaji was uh, talking to Krishna after this Brahma Vimohan Leela, Brahmaji says, Are Narayanongam Narabhujalana Tatchapi Sattvam Natavaiva Maya. He says that, my dear Lord, that you are my father. Then, and Krishna says, Are I am a cowherd boy. How can I be your father? Then Mama said, No, 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 I will give the reason. So first he says Narayana. Nara means something which is Ayana, Nara. From something comes from Nara is called Nara. So first name of Narayana is from Nara comes this, the water comes from his body and Lord is lying. Ayana means to rest. So he's resting on water. So that's why he's called Vishnu, Narayana, who's lying on his own, the water. Second is all the living entities are called Nara. So Nara means all the living entities and Ayana means resting. All the living entities are resting in Vishnu. Not only that, even the Purushas are called Nara. So Nara means all the Purushas, the expansions, Kirokshay, Garbhodakshay, Karnadakshay, all the Purusha avatars, they are also actually resting on Krishna. That's why he is called Moola Narayana. Krishna is Moola Narayana. So Aham is Krishna, that here. He is alone, no need of his, because he is all perfect, all omnipotent. So all the spiritual existence was there with the Lord, the material existence was dormant in him, but his will alone is the material manifestation done and undone. And another thing is, Narayana is because Krishna's qualities are superior. These are the reasons Brahma tells to Krishna when he is telling, Oh, I am cowherd boy. Brahma says, No, no, no. You are the original Narayana. This is called Moola Narayana. Sai Vaesha tada drishta na pashyad darshayam ekarat mene sanam santam ivatmanam sukta shaktir asukta drik. The Lord, the undisputed priority of everything, was the only seer. The cosmic manifestation was not present at that time, and thus he felt imperfect without his plenary and separated part and parcels. The material energy was dormant, whereas the internal potency was manifested. The Lord is the supreme seer because only by his glance did the material energy become active for cosmic manifestation. So, Lord is the only seer. So, the supreme seer becomes only. So first from him everything comes. At the time the seer was there, but the external energy over which the glance of the Lord cast was not present. He felt somewhat insufficient, like a husband feeling lonely in the absence of his wife. This is a poetic simile. The Lord wanted to create the cosmic manifestation to give another chance to the conditioned souls who are dormant in forgetfulness. Not that Lord is incomplete, but Lord also has desire. We want to enjoy in a separate, different ways. That is the main understanding. Like Lord want to enjoy, and he want to enjoy it differently. Oh, that is called, that's why Akhila Rasa Amritamut. He enjoys all varieties, and he can enjoy it to the perfect extent. And now he feels okay. Let us enjoy. Say, uh, he's Atma Rama. Say, love somebody has a whistle. He just whistles. He whistles and sings some song. That is some pleasure. But he takes a flute, and the same air he blows in a flute. Is example given by Jugos. So he can make so many hundreds of songs with the flute. Same air he's blowing. So instead of blowing air just like that, he's taking a flute and blowing. Similarly, Lord on his own he can enjoy, but it takes, he create, means he didn't create, they're living entities. He manifests them and he enjoys. Coming and delivering them and performing some pastimes with them, and so that's why he's called not only Karuna Murti, is Leela Murti, Leelamai also. He's Leelamai, he performs Leela and he also shows compassion. So this is why he's creating. And we may feel that he's giving a chance for them going back. The Lord is so kind that in absence of such manifestation, he feels something wanting, and thus he create thus the creation takes place. Although the creation of internal potency was manifested and other potencies appear to be sleeping, and the Lord wanted to awaken her to activate, just as a husband want to awaken his wife from the sleeping state for enjoyment. It is the compassion of the Lord for sleeping energy that he want to see her awaken for enjoyment, like others' wife, like the other wife who are awake. The whole process is enlivened and the sleeping condition souls to the real life of spiritual consciousness, so that they may thus become a perfect as a ever liberated souls in the Vaikuntha. Since the Lord is Sachidananda Vigraha, he likes every part and parcels of his different potencies to take part in the blissful rasa, because participation with the Lord in his eternal Ras Lila is the highest living condition, perfect in spiritual bliss and eternal knowledge. So, Lord is enjoying and he enjoys, and we should become part of his enjoyment. That is the simple funda. And now people may question, Hare, how Lord is, there is, he's sometime indifferent and sometimes he shows compassion. So both are his leelas. He enjoys for one night he's sleeping, nothing is happening, and he awake and everything is happening. And the duration is 311 trillion and 40 billion years. That much time he's sleeping, and after that he's creating. So we cannot conceive it, but things are like that only. Sava etasya samdrishtu shakti sadasadatmaka maya nama mahabhaga edam nirmame vibhu. The Lord is seer. And the external energy, which is seen, works as both the cause and effect in the cosmic manifestation. Cause and effect means the ingredients that are needed for creation, and after creating whatever is happening, both are matter nature. Oh, fortunately, oh, great fortunate Vidura, this external energy is known as Maya or illusion, and through her agency only is the entire material manifestation made possible. The material nature known as Maya is both material and material effective cause of the cosmos. But in background, the Lord is the consciousness of all activities. So this is very important factor. Maya is energy, but the consciousness is Lord. The act, that is what is enters the energy. So we discuss this. Material nature is not on its own cause and effect. This is the mistake the scientists make. What is the greatest mistake? They think it is all material cause and effect. We say, Arey Baba, that is not material cause and effect. Lord has to enter. There should be consciousness. What is a simple example? Say if everything is nicely organized, that means what? Somebody's consciousness entered into it. That's why it is organized. As such, matter is very chaotic. Like because there are bricks, cement, and all this steel and all, but nothing happens. But a person enters into it, then we can make a building. So it's an organized structure, means consciousness enters into it. Even our body also, it is working, functioning, because there is consciousness. Whose consciousness? Krishna's only. Paramatma is there, that's why this body is functioning. Our consciousness is only awareness and desires. We cannot even make this body function. Our consciousness is not sufficient enough to make this matter work. Who is making this matter work? Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham itmanyate. Only living entity is thinking. I am thinking, I am speaking now. But it is Paramatma's consciousness making this matter work. I cannot handle matter. Krishna only handles. We only can desire. As in the individual body, the consciousness is source of all energies of the body. So the supreme consciousness of Lord is the source of all energies. So the soul is having some potency, but it is not sufficient to manipulate matter. It is done by Krishna only, Paramatma in the heart. So we gave the example of digestion. Yesterday night we had prasadam. So how many of us meditated consciously to digest prasadam? No. Who is doing it? Paramatma is doing it. So Krishna is telling here, Maya Dikshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Itananena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. So Maya Dikshena Prakriti. So our body is also made of what? Prakriti. That means who is handling this Prakriti? This Prakriti has earth, water, fire, air. So the body also has these elements. Who is controlling them? Krishna only controls. We cannot do anything. We are so insignificant. कालवृत्त्या तु मायायां गुणमय्याम् अधोक्षजः पुरुषेणात्मभूतेन वीर्यम् आदत्त वीर्यवान्. The supreme living being is his feature as the transcendental Purusha incarnation, who is Lord's plenary expansion, impregnates the material nature of three modes, and thus, by the influence of eternal time, the living entity appears. So, three things. So, first is the Purusha, who is Lord's Krishna's plenary expansion. What does he do? He impregnates the material nature of three modes. How does he impregnates? By his glance, that is Shambhu. And thus, by the influence of eternal time, the living entity appears. So, Lord should glance and then time creates. Prabhupada is writing. The offsprings of any living being is born after the father impregnates the mother with the semen. And the living entity floating in the semen of the father takes the shape of mother's form. Similarly, mother material nature cannot produce any living entity for her material elements until and unless she is impregnated with living entities by the Lord himself. That is the mystery of generation of living entities. This impregnating process is performed by the first Purusha incarnation, Karanadaksha Vishnu. Simply by his glance over material nature, the whole matter is accomplished. Now, we should not understand the process of impregnation by the personality of God in terms of our conception of sex. The omnipotent Lord can impregnate just by his eyes, and therefore he is called all potent. Each and every part of his transcendental body can perform each and every function of other parts. This is confirmed in Brahma Samhita. Angani yasya saklendriya vittimanti. Now the point is, like who made this technology in the womb of mother to create? Whether there is a semen enters and then there is ovum, this is formed. Who made this technology? Krishna only made. So he can make many technologies for creation. Now, this is one technology he is using for creation. He can use by glance, he can use by this, he can give body to living entity in any way. This is the method he choose to give a body to living entity. And this is also very important science because that is how he can keep a living entity conditioned this metal world. It's a very big trick, very big trick of Maya. Because what happens, if it comes through mother's womb, it comes through father, then they start identifying with the child, my child. And that will make them take responsibility of the child and he will make them grow. And that is the system. If children are born, like if worms are there or mosquitoes are there, they don't have any responsibility of the child. They just produce eggs and the living entities are born. They just go away. They don't have that. But as the consciousness grow, like most care is needed for the human child only. And the ego is very strong, the identification, and that helps living entity to continue. So Lord made such systems. We'll discuss some maybe some point. How complicated system Krishna created, so difficult to get out only. And And here, when the cosmic creation is manifested, the living entities are directly supplied from the Lord. They are never products of material nature. Thus, no scientific advancement of material science can ever produce a living being. That is the whole mystery of material creation. This is a very important thing because we can never create consciousness. Consciousness can never be created by matter. So, scientists, no matter what they do, they cannot create consciousness only because matter is always dead. Consciousness is something which makes the matter work. Now you are telling with matter I'll make consciousness. Array, consciousness is superior to matter. How can you make something superior with an inferior thing? That is the point. What scientists say, but certain point the matter combined and some consciousness appeared. They say our reflexes, this, that. They don't get this point only. Such a simple thing. Where a matter is always dead. That's what Prabhupada is trying to explain many times. He says, where a matter is always dead. How can you make something inferior product and superior product with an inferior items? Not possible. The living entity are foreign to matter, and thus they cannot be happy unless they are situated in the same spiritual life as the Lord. The mistaken living being, out of forgetfulness of of his original condition of life, unnecessarily wastes time trying to become happy in the material world. The whole Vedic process is to remind one of these essential features of life. The Lord offers the conditioned soul a material body for his so-called enjoyment. But if one does not come to his senses and enter into spiritual consciousness, the Lord again puts him in the unmanifested condition as it existed in the beginning of the creation. The Lord is described here as Viryavan, the greatest potent being, because he impregnates material nature with innumerable living entities who are conditioned for time immemorial. ततो अभवन्महत्तत्त्वम् अव्यक्तात् कालचोदितात् विज्ञानात्मानं देहस्थं विश्वं विज्ञास्तमोन्द. Thereafter, influenced by the interactions of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter called the Mahatattva becomes manifested. And in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord, sows the seed of universal manifestation out of his own body. In due course of time, proposes the impregnated metal energy was manifested first as the total material ingredients. Everything takes its own time to fructify, and thereafter, the word Kala Chodita, influenced by time, is used here. The Mahatattva is the total consciousness because a portion of it is represented in everyone as the intellect. So Mahatattva is called Chitta. The Mahatattva is directly connected to the supreme consciousness of the supreme being, but still appears as matter. So Mahatattva is directly connected with the supreme consciousness, but still the Mahatattva or shadow of pure consciousness is the germinating place of all creation. It is pure goodness with a slight addition of material mode of passion, and therefore activity is generated from this point. So here, Mahatattva is a shadow of pure consciousness. It is germinating place of all creation. It is pure goodness, but there is a tinge of passion. So from Mahatattva comes Sutra Tattva, then Ahankara Tattva. Thereafter, Mahatattva differentiate itself into many different forms as a reservoir of feature entities. Future entities. The Mahatattva is chiefly mode of ignorance and it generates the false ego. It is plenary expansions of the personality of Godhead with full consciousness of creative principles and time for manifestation. Three things we should do. Mahat Tattva is goodness, Sutta Tattva is passion, Ahankar Tattva is ignorance. Simple. Three modes. Mahat Tattva lies between pure spirit and material existence. It is the junction of matter and spirit. So Mahat Tattva is the junction of matter and spirit because it's a reflection of consciousness. So in that way it becomes matter. Mahat Tattva is a reflection of consciousness, it becomes matter. You see, thereafter Mahatattva differentiates itself into many different forms as a reservoir of future entities. So Mahatattva is only converting. The Mahatattva is good, is chiefly in mode of ignorance. So, and it generates the false ego. It is plenary expansions of personality of Godhead with which full consciousness of creative principles and time for fructification. It is directly Mahatattva is plenary expansion of personality of Godhead. So it is a junction of matter and spirit, where from the false ego of living entity is generated. All living entities are differentiated parts and parcels of the personality of Godhead. Under the pressure of false ego, the conditioned souls, although parts of parcel of Supreme Lord, claim to be the enjoyers of material nature. This false ego is the binding force of mental existence. The Lord again and again gives the bewildered conditioned souls a chance to get free from false ego. That is why the material creation takes place at intervals. He gives the conditioned soul all facilities for rectifying the activities of the false ego, but he does not interfere with their small independence as part and parcel of the Lord. Okay, thank you all very much. We'll continue tomorrow. No, Monday. Tomorrow, if you are available, you can join morning session. We'll discuss on